Hello, welcome to When Legends Talk, a book by the legend of Savage Machine, the original Mexican metal band from Northern California. Just a word of caution, this book contains topics and scenarios that may be triggering to some people. Discretion advised. Chapter 21, Pensando, Pondering. We toured and got to play in venues we deemed to be high points in the music world, like the Whiskey A Go Go in LA, and our local shows had grown feverishly in attendance. We met some amazing people during our tours, including bands and regular people in general. People at shows would come up to chat with us before and after our set, offer us a place to stay, buy us a drink, or sometimes even food. The nicest, most down to earth people I have ever met have been metalheads that I've met at shows. It became blatantly obvious that metalheads are victims to people's assumptions based on the media's portrayal of the metalhead community. People make assumptions and then try to hold them accountable for their assumptions. It's truly sickening. Sadly, our bassist decided his life path did not include Savage Machines, so he left the band. We brought on a different bassist and set out to tour again. This time, our tour was to include shows in Mexico due to my brother's extensive efforts, but alas, it was not meant to be. This was the beginning of the swine flu virus, and Mexico had announced that they would be quarantining anyone who showed any kind of symptoms for 45 days, and our new bassist had non related systems. We opted to forego the Mexico part of our tour to avoid any misunderstandings on that, but still had a great tour, met new people, and made new friends. We were scheduled to go into the studio to record an album for our next tour when our bassist told us he had joined the military and was leaving the next day. Irritated but not beaten, my brother and I went into the studio and recorded the whole album with just the two of us. He laid down the drum tracks and backup vocals, then I did guitars, bass, and lead vocals. I had been teaching a friend and roadie to play the guitar mostly with our songs, so I put him on guitar for a couple of local shows. I took over the bass, and we went on tour once more. I used to get pretty animated on stage, thrashing around with my guitar, and I ended up smacking him in the back of the head. I felt bad, but we all joked that it was his hazing to welcome him into the band. We had a lot of problems on that tour with band morale, atmosphere, and even had a breakdown scare during a snowstorm that prompted us to cut the tour short on the last two shows. The band broke up after that. I had quit my job before leaving for this tour, so I had no job to return to. That job was supposed to have been a partnership that I later found out to be more of a scam. My friend who had gone with me on all those nature trips had a business that I was supposed to be a partner in, so I worked hard to help build it up and did very well. Bought me a house, a truck, a trailer, motorcycle, all the gear for outdoor activities, and even funded band and touring. But in the end, I found out all that stuff was not even mine. It belonged to the company, and I was not named as owner of the company, so none of that stuff belonged to me other than the band equipment. Basically, I worked for him. He paid me, and then he got the money back in rent. I got to I had to move out and ended up moving in with mom and papa, unable to find a job for months. I lost my band, my job, my house, all my toys, and the family was in turmoil. I tried to start up a company of my own doing the same work, but that turned out to be a bust as well. I fell into a deep depression that shook me to my core. I had to literally start over. It made me feel like I was back in Mexico with nothing and no one, even though that was not logical. I still had family and friends and the roof and food. It took a lot of self work to get my mind out of that emotionally lethal gutter.
Tirar mi vida a la oscuridad, huyendo paredes que nunca existían, la gente que dirá. Tirar mi vida a la oscuridad, huyendo paredes que nunca existían, la gente que dirá, huyendo paredes que nunca existían, la gente que dirá.
I was forced to reassess myself, my life, and reestablish resilience. I took the first step in my new journey of self discovery and growth. I had to reinvent myself, and I had no idea how yet. Eventually, I was able to get unemployment and use that money to sign up for school, where I got certified as an EKG technician, thinking it would be a job where I could help people. I learned after my first day as a volunteer that this was not the place for me because the hospital scene was depressing and stifling. I continued to search for a new path when I happened upon a YouTube channel that was dedicated to explaining the teachings of Siddhartha Buddha. Every word seemed to be dedicated to my emotional state and appeared to clear the wild overgrowth to reveal a path less traveled. The teachings were centered on self realizations, acceptance, and growth without judgment by embracing mindfulness and self affirmation. I listened quietly, absorbing as much as I could, trying to find a way to incorporate some of the teachings into my new life. I slowly gained my confidence back by not focusing on where I was, but reflecting on where I've been and where I'd come from, which allowed me to become more grateful and more serene or centered. It was also a bit funny to me because the teachings reminded me of the old Chinese kung fu movies I used to watch, where the teacher would throw out a nugget of wisdom and the student had no idea how to interpret. Life is like a river, never the same in the same place. Impermanence is the path to growth. What that means to me is that things change every day, every minute of every day, and we should accept it because without change, we cannot grow. Like when you put a seed in a small pot, it will reach a point where it can't grow anymore until you switch it into a bigger pot.